program, Johnny Cuba, European roots with that Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. Pick up a 6-pack of Johnny Cuba for yourself, your local Sedanos, Presidente, Winn-Dixie, Fresco y Mas. We always drink responsibly, of course, in the ZASLOW mansion. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Our pal here is Mike Ryan, former executive producer of the LeBatard Show. Now he's in charge of talent acquisition, extra projects. I don't know what kind of title you have going on there at Meadowlark. Do you want to correct me here? What's the official title there for you, Mike Ryan?
I like the ambiguity, Zaz. I guess executive producer at large for Meadowlark and business development, talent development. 2024 is a real fun year for me in that I have a lot of projects that I'm working on that I'm keeping very close to the vest.
Okay.
So for the time being, ambiguity is the appropriate tact.
Okay. All right. Very good. Now I want to talk to you. You know, I don't know that there are many people in our market who are as fired up and have been as dedicated of a Florida Panther fan as I have, but you're one of the few that come to mind here. So I do want to get to the Panthers and all of that with you. Are you excited, though? First, that's really what I want to talk to you about. But let's get some other stuff out of the way. First, the Heat tonight. Does the Heat season end tonight in Boston?
I kind of hope so. And I understand that as a Heat fan, look, I'm wearing a white hot shirt and maybe my messaging has gotten in the way of the fact that I'm truly passionate about the Miami Heat and I love this franchise. And I think that since their inception, they've been as first class, maybe not as successful, but once you get that pesky Michael Jordan out of the way, as successful as anyone outside of the Lakers in the NBA. But I don't think that there's been a season quite like this one in that they've received the message so clearly that they are simply not where they need to be, that there is a talent disparity that they need to make up specifically within the conference to be competing at the level that we're used to. And you could blame it on injuries. I think the injuries are unfortunate for several reasons in that we didn't get a more competitive series. It was tougher to make evaluations on players that you kind of wanted to wait till the playoffs to fully judge because Duncan Robinson had made tremendous strides throughout the season, but that looming playoff questions and doubts that we had about the player, those questions go unanswered right now. I'm excited for the discourse to change, for people to start thinking rationally and start having some uncomfortable conversations about this roster construction. And there won't be a big announcement from Heat Twitter. You won't see it publicly when they lay their shields down. But I do think whether it's tonight or the next game, you are going to see a bit of a sea change with regards to how people talk about this franchise, and I welcome that.
Well, but what would you have had them do different going into this season? Like, they identified the player that they wanted, and you have that cockroach out in Portland who refused to engage with the Heat. So,
right.
What did you want them to do going into this season?
I think looking back on it, I think it's a fair accusation. Number one, two ways. I do think that I do speak to the conspiracy theories that there is some kind of conspiracy against the Miami Heat in that teams are not willing to deal with them in ways that they're willing to deal with other teams. And you have media arms kind of propagandize this message, kind of dilute the assets. I think with a treetop view, we realized that Miami's offer was pretty competitive, especially when you look at all the injuries that happened there. However, publicly, Miami Heat took a position that was really chock full of hubris. And I think if they could do it over again, they'd be a little bit more low-key about it, especially with the Tyler Hero stuff that they later refuted and said Tyler Hero was never on there. But the Tyler Hero take it or leave it public stance that a lot of the media that we trust to cover them kind of echoed. I think if you look back on that, that was probably a bit too cocky and really helped put them in the position that they were in, where they were essentially blackballed. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because, yes, we know the top-line stars that they've whiffed on. But there have also been tier 2, tier 3, types of acquisitions that other people inside the conference have made. When you talk about a Pascal Siakam, when you talk about an OG Anunoby, I think I'd even put, even though he's like a tier 1 talent, but a tier 2, tier 3 problem is Kyrie Irving. I think if you look back at some of the evaluations and calls that they made, and I understand the Kyrie Irving thing, especially for this franchise, is far more complicated than any of that stuff. But I do think Siakam and OG would have presented really interesting upgrades for this roster that could have been a bit more feisty. I'm not saying that this wins the Eastern Conference, but I do know for a fact that it probably plays out a little bit better for the Miami Heat's favor. So I'd like for them to stop failing on these assignments. And while the headliners get all the attention from Heat Twitter, I'm also concentrating on the Siakams and OG Anunobys of the world, because I think those pieces could have really helped.
Did you renew your Inter Miami season tickets this year?
I did not renew my Inter Miami season
ticket. It was a little bit too rich for your blood. You bowed out with the price increase.
Yeah, it was way too rich for my blood. I had very expensive seats.
Yeah.
I had really, really big time seats, Zaz, and I think it's been pretty well reported. The price increases for all the tiers, specifically my tier, I got a 3 times X increase on my seats.
Mine went up significantly too. Yeah. Not so like yours, but yeah.
Yeah, and I had 2 seats. I was looking actually to add a third because my daughter's grown to an age where I like taking her to the games. We're looking at an investment in this club. When you consider where their stadium is located, it was hard. It was hard to get to that stadium. I'm passionate. I watch every Inter Miami game, but
it's a horrible stadium to get to right now. The parking situation is horrible.
I had good parking. The parking situation wasn't so bad, but it is tough. Look, I live in the populous center of Miami-Dade County. It is Inter Miami after all. If I wanted to go to a weekday fixture, it would take me close to 2 hours to support my soccer club, and that got a little bit too more difficult. I have other things going on in my life, and I'm really all in on the University of Miami, so I decided to take a look at my budget and realize that maybe when the stadium gets a little bit closer to me, I can justify that kind of price. But for now, I can't. And it's a shame because Leo Messi has really lived up to all of it. I remember doing this show, sounding the klaxon that Leo Messi was going to be coming. He's fulfilled the prophecy. If you look at the last 11 games, I think he's scored on 10 and assisted on 11. He's been unbelievable. It's just strange to me that club just feels so far away. It's almost like a made-for-television product.
It feels like it's lost I feel like it's lost a lot of momentum. I'm not 100% sure why. It may be because the beginning of the year, Messi missed all of those games. I feel like, and he's been playing now recently, like 3-4 games in a row. But I feel like that chunk of games that he missed there, I feel like it killed so much momentum for them. They're having a hard time getting it back.
They're playing well inside the conference too, Zaz. But look, they failed in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They're not participating in the U.S. Open Cup. That's a whole nother subject. I'm not a fan of that. But really, up until July, when Leagues Cup ramps up, and that's when he joined this club properly last year, and I love that competition. I think it's such a great made-for-television product. I as a fan of Liga MX soccer, I love these dream matchups where you get to see MLS clubs versus Liga MX. So I'm really excited and hopeful for that competition in the middle of the summer when there's less competition, when there's less of a congested sports calendar, to really re-engage this South Florida sports market. It's tough. Right now you have 2 playoff teams. That's going to dwindle down to 1, but I've coined the phrase fanned with. And I think, unfortunately, for Inter Miami, when it comes to local talking points, they're kind of outside that fanned with allotment presently.
I kept my tickets this year, although I have not been to a game yet. I sell all the games, all right? And I am making – business is a booming. And so I had a buddy who has always split my Inter Miami tickets with me. He bowed out this year because of the price increase, so I held on to them. I'm going to go down with the ship. And so I've been selling tickets for all of the games. And like I said, business is booming. And every time I sell the tickets, like last night, just sold my tickets for New York Red Bulls. All I do is I send my buddy a message, and it's a meme of the $1 Million Man laughing.
Yeah, I was look, I made my investment a full return on my investment last year, but where the ticket price increase was, again, for my tier of seats, I started capitulating towards the end of the year last year. And trust me, I do peek a gander at the secondary market to see what my ticket seats are going for and what I'd be paying. And it turns out that at least for my tier, I made the right decision.
Gotcha. All right. Talk about the right decision. So the other night, you got the Panthers and the Heat are playing at the same time. Now, I have never missed a Miami Heat playoff game in my life. All right. And I've certainly never had this scenario where you got both teams are playing at home at the same time, and I'm considering going to the Panthers over the Heat. But after the Panthers lost game 4 to bring it back here for game 5, I've never been at a closeout game. I mean, I haven't had very many opportunities. I've never been to a closeout game for the Florida Panthers. And I just decided, fuck it. I'm buying the tickets. I bought the tickets to the Panthers. I kept track of the Heat on my phone. I haven't watched it on my phone for a while, but then it got out of hand. I'm like, fuck this. I got to pay attention to what's in front of me here. So I took my son. We went to the game the other night, game 5. And like I said, you're someone who I know has loved the Panthers since their existence like I have. And it's such a great thing that I'm experiencing right now with the Panthers because, yes, I was there during obviously the Heat when they went in 06 and then in 12 and 13. But I'm experiencing what's going on with the Panthers now with my teenage boys, which is a completely different ball game I have learned as a sports fan. So just in general, what's going on right now with the Panthers? I mean, hell, Mike, last year, they didn't even win. And I don't know how, if they won the Stanley Cup last year, how I could have enjoyed the run more than I actually did. Like, I guess it would be better if they won the Stanley Cup, but I don't know how, because last year was amazing and they didn't even win.
Last year was amazing, particularly when you analyze how they got there, especially in that first round, coming back from 3-1, pull the goalie, Montour equalize Swaggy Cole's game, and then they just flat track Toronto, and the games against Carolina were super exciting. It was a sweep that, according to their head coach, wasn't actually a sweep. But
right.
You talk about closeout games. That was one with Chucky in the game winner, and now an iconic image of him on his knees.
Look, I got it right here. That's it right there when he's skating to the bench after the goal right there on my wall.
Is great. And I traveled to Washington, D.C. when the Panthers had their first opportunity to clinch a game on the road and get out of the first round in quite some time. I've loved this franchise, and I got to see early success when this franchise started when I was a child. It built my fandom for the rest of my life. It was one magical run. I got the privilege to work for the Panthers. Unfortunately, my timing was bad, and it was during a lockout. And then a lot of great hard partying years were wasted on Billy Peltonen and David Booth and teams that some frisky teams like the Catlantic and Yager gave us certainly a year that we got excited about, but it was a bit of a doldrum when it came to getting people outside of that hockey bubble, people that truly were passionate about the sport. And I'm so grateful now that not only do we have a team that can really engage this South Florida market, and I say South Florida emphatically because this does really feel like Broward's team to a degree in ways that it doesn't feel like Dade's team, whereas Miami, there's more of a cultural connection, more of a communal connection to the team. Broward has that with 954, and I love that for them, but also specifically to have a star that is willing to take that onto his shoulders, wants it, loves being the face of this franchise. It really glazes our market anytime he has an opportunity to talk about it. And Matthew Tkachuk, I think that's great because I imagine your teenagers love Matthew Tkachuk. He's got the mouthpiece, there's the haircut, their brand, the style of play, their branding.
Well, that's what I said when they traded for him. I'm like, you guys are going to love this guy. He is going to be perfect for us. Were you there Monday night for Game 5 closeout?
I was not. I actually, in my calendar, I'm the University of Miami is honoring Katie Meyer for her incredible 19-year run. And in my calendar, I had that reception for the Monday that just passed. It's actually this coming Monday. But at the same time, my wife had a girls' night, so I was stuck dadding. But I did get to watch it from home. I've had my fair share of closeout games, both at home and on the road, and I've really enjoyed it. Man, the playoffs too. At this point in the year, when you got four screens, it's an easier sell. Trust me, I wanted to be there. I heard our barn was an insane asylum
Amazing
for that game. But I'll have plenty of opportunities coming up. I'm hopeful.
I mean, these Stanley Cup playoffs, it's unmatched. You know, I used to tell people when I was on 790 a ticket, and you know, Stanley Cup playoffs, if you're not watching, if you're a sports fan, like, you are missing out. And that was before we had a team that was in the mix every year. And so now you got a team that's in the mix every season. Just the tension, because you look at 6-1, it's like, oh, we kicked the shit out of them. All right, the last 8 minutes of the game, we kicked the shit out of them. But the first 52 minutes of that game, we were in the pressure cooker. Like, the game was so tight. It was an incredible game. And just the tension of literally any second here, every single shift, every little thing means something in all of these games. There's nothing like it.
No, and I could argue that so far the NHL, just grading on the curve that they've established, the first round's kind of been a little bit disappointing by their standards because they're usually just outrageous. The overtime games are a bit low right now, but when you get to the elimination games, it goes up just a whole nother level. And I love the drama that's associated with the NBA playoffs, but when it comes to the NHL playoffs, there are quantifiable metrics that suggest playoff puck is just different. Hits go up, block shots go up, totals for the game go down a full goal. These are things that that odds makers are telling you are real things. It's not your eyes lying to you. I love playoff puck, and thank God we finally have a team that not only has been in the mix for a little bit, but looks like, because of the contract situation and they have a lot of young talent locked in, it's going to be a part of that discussion for a few more years.
I've never done more of a 180, in my opinion, of any South Florida sports figure as I have Paul Maurice over the last year. Can you think of an instance where you have done more of a 180 where that's my guy now? I will never ever question anything.
Sergei Bobrovsky.
And he's the next one. Yeah. I feel the same way about Bobrovsky. That is my guy. Yeah. I don't care what he does the rest of his career here, although I'm confident he's going to do well. That's my guy. I mean, think about this, Mike. At the arena the other day, it's 2-0. The Lightning score on the power play to make it 2-1. The crowd immediately starts chanting, Bobby. He just gave up a goal, and the crowd is chanting Bobby. Between the two of them, I've never done more of a 180 for a South Florida sports figure. Those are my guys.
Yeah, well, this is a kind of a chapter out of the Tampa Bay blueprint in how you build a hockey market. And thankfully, Tampa, earlier in their franchise's history, got one, and then they lost some momentum because of the associated lockouts. But they rebuilt, and they had sustained winning. And you go there, you can stack Tampa as a great hockey town amongst some of the best hockey markets, at least in this country. And as someone that has gone to pretty much every playoff series between Florida and Tampa, you see an increase in red sweaters every time the Florida Panthers play. And on the other side of the coin,
hardly any blue sweaters the other night. Very few.
And if you remember what that first series was, the one that Spencer Knight played in that went to 6, I mean, there was a good 25% chunk that was Tampa Bay fans over there. And the reason why there's fewer sweaters, it's not because there's fewer Tampa Bay Lightning fans that are passionate to travel. It's because there's more season ticket holders that are not reselling their tickets. And so I think that what's happening down here is a very interesting case study. Hopefully the Miami Marlins are taking a good hard look at what Vinny Viola and the Florida Panthers have done to re-engage and get success on the field of play, to build a sustainable fan base. Because what they've had stacking years like this of real actual contention has been something that really the Marlins, maybe you could argue after they won the World Series in 2003, they were aggressive. They made some deals. They got Delgado in here. They were kind of in the mix late seasons. But the Marlins, in their entire history, they haven't really had that sustained run of people talking playoffs. They've had these flash-in-the-pan world championships upon reflection, or flash-in-the-pan recent playoff appearances, which just signaled another teardown. So it's been very frustrating for them, and I really, truly hope that they look at the Florida Panthers specifically on how to actually have a sustainable growth model in this market.
You talked about this on the LeBatard Show, I think yesterday, and you echoed exactly my sentiment this entire season in regards to the Panthers and the Lightning, where I've been saying I took a picture after the game during the handshake line, and then I posted it on social media, and I said, I've been waiting all year for this moment because I didn't care how good the Lightning were going to be or, if the Lightning were going to be a lesser team than they've been the last few years. The entire season, I want the Lightning in the playoffs. It could be the first round. I don't care when it is. For us to get to where we need to go, we have to go through the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I loved that we came down to the last day of the season. We win the division and we get the Lightning. This is the way it normally works out for professional sports. You got to go through some heartache before you break through. And the Panthers went through the heartache in 21. They went through the heartache in 22. They went through it in 23. 2 of those losses were to Tampa. Well, now to get to where we need to go, we have to go through Tampa Bay. And if you look at the way the Panthers have won the past 2 first rounds before this year, overtime games on the road, like super tight situations. Guess what? This time around, they left no doubt. This is the buildup. This is what you need if you're going to eventually win.
It's what the story was missing. And you're a big wrestling fan. Cody Rhodes finishing his story feels less than if he doesn't go through specifically Roman Reigns. If Cody Rhodes, quote, finishes his story for what they presented on television as a secondary title through a champion that wasn't Roman Reigns, it would feel less than. For Florida to continue on this journey, for them to finish their story, a big piece of that, a huge chunk of that was their in-state rival who eliminated them and dashed the hopes of people. I think I speak for you in that I've always been passionate about hockey. Year after year, I'm just learning more about the game. I'm watching it differently. This team has taught me the different styles. Paul Maurice specifically, there was a huge lesson in that. I also had to delete some tweets because that was a very not fun growing
I came
process.
on the LeBatard Show a year ago. I traded Sasha Barkov.
Yeah.
I mean, I traded him. We were down 3-1, we all ate our words.
We have. And this is a testament to the process and us learning and us honestly, I wish Heat fans could take a chapter of take some notes here because sports fans can have it wrong. I was plenty wrong last year with the Miami Heat. You don't have to be so selfish and self-involved that it makes you enjoy it less. If it results in a championship, are you kidding me? I'd love to be wrong like that. That's like the most fruitful way to be wrong. We can have it wrong sometimes, and the process can work out sometimes, even when the results in the ramp up to it don't go your way. It's been a really tremendous story, and I really hope that they get to finish it and they get to bring that to this market because I'm so excited about the possibilities. You look at where Tampa has gone, where players can't even dine out without being recognized. I know that's part of the appeal of this market in particular, that they can go out and be unrecognized. But to have this market in particular become a hockey market, that defies logic, defies the odds, and I would love to see it.
Can we tell Greg Cody to tone it down a little bit on already declaring that the Panthers are going to win the Stanley Cup? I mean, we got 12 more games we got to win. It's the hardest trophy to win in sports. I'm super excited, too, that they won the other night, but it's only the first round. We have another month and a half here.
It's gonna be hard. It kind of feels to me, and maybe the odds don't reflect this, it's kind of felt to me, especially when Carolina broke up the road win streak, that those two franchises, Carolina and Florida, still have more story to tell. And it just seems like we're on a collision course with them. I personally believe, if you ask me who I think is going to win the Stanley Cup, I think it's the Florida Panthers. I'm not going to come out and be brash about it, but I do think that Florida was more talented and 5-on-5 as long as they stood out of the box. And look, what an idiot am I? They didn't stay out of the box. It was a big advantage for Tampa Bay, and their defense erased them. But I do think Florida is more talented and tougher than Boston. They're certainly tougher than Toronto. If everybody's healthy, maybe some people, at least offensively, would prefer the talent of Toronto, but defensively, I don't think that they can hang with the problems that Florida presents. There's a reason why, and when you look at the odds, Florida is top 3 to lift the cup right now. So I'm really, really bullish on their chances this year. I think this is the best opportunity that has ever been presented to Panthers fans in terms of championship prospects.
finally hear from Mike Ryan. How much are you enjoying pro wrestling right now? This shit is so good.
It's great. And I know that there's always like a post-mania hangover, and there's some stars that are getting surgeries and are just not really available. And I imagine that when they come back come SummerSlam season, we'll ramp back up then. I actually kind of appreciate the little dip as my attention is kind of scattered throughout all the post seasons right now. But pro wrestling is amazing, and it's a unique time in history in that when's the last time you've had a pure as the driven snow babyface be this over as a champion? We've had babyface champions before, but if you look back on it, it feels
I mean,
more
I
like
guess Cena, right? But that's
he's
like
not pure as a driven
15.
snow, though. He wasn't. He was never. In fact, especially with the origins of the character.
He was first Doctor of Thugonomics, you know?
Yeah. And then when he became like, okay, I'm just going to lean into being the kid's icon, it was a very divisive reaction that he got from the crowd. Let's go Cena. Cena sucks. I think you have to go all the way back to early days of Bret Hart as WWE.
Probably Bret Hart.
Yeah, as champion, where you had a true babyface that went on
Yeah.
a lengthy run that maintained good babyface pop reactions. Now, I think the audience has already shown you with Cody specifically down in AEW, and I know that there was other stuff going on there. And in conversations that I've had with Cody several years ago, it's cool to wonder aloud, like, how long can this possibly go before the crowd turns on him and goes and does what they did with Bret Hart, which is, oh, that anti-hero, that's a little bit cooler. You're kind of whack. How does that work out? I do hope, for the sake of wrestling fans, that this run is a little bit lengthy. I'm curious to know if wrestling fans can do that, because they are not programmed to go for the wholesome babyface USA all the way. It's kind of a bit of nostalgia to the days of Hulkamania running wild to say your vitamins and eat your prayers. I'm really appreciating the fact that this is, for our generation, rather unprecedented.
I'll leave you with this as far as WWE goes. How pumped are you for this Drew McIntyre CM Punk feud? It's been good shit so far.
It has been good. I got to tell you, Phil lost me with a lot of his behavior at AEW, but that just makes me more of a Drew guy. And I think Drew's like shit posting Twitter gimmick that's playing out in real life, where he can actually, it's a little like when you look back with the mega powers imploding, Macho brought up a lot of great points. Like, Hulk Hogan was a bit of a heel in that program.
Lust in your eyes.
Yeah. And also, remember when Hulk Hogan got eliminated fair and square from the Royal Rumble and he just pulled Sid out? Like, heelish behavior over there.
Hogan used to use the steel chair. He used to rake the eyes. He would throw Mr. Fuji salt. I mean, Hogan was a big-time heel dressed as a babyface.
Yeah, whereas Drew, he's still getting heel reactions, and he's a pro. He knows what to do on the mic to get those heel reactions. That's what he's going for. But if you listen to what he is saying, tell him when he's telling lies. Drew's been keeping it 100 the entire time. So I think he's doing the best work of his career, while the prospect of a big marquee name like that switching companies always keeps things interesting. I think he is in just such a great groove at WWE that I actually would have been low-key disappointed if he moved, because I do want to see this storyline with CM Punk, provided that CM Punk can stay healthy, because he has not shown that. I do hope that there is a big blowout there, and the emotional investment that they're getting from the audience will more than make up for whatever deficiencies Phil has in the ring these days.
I'll leave you with one more. Who is a young star right now in WWE that you're most excited for, that you like the most right now?
This is going to be a basic answer, but I think that with Cody Rhodes, you have one real logical opponent to make him have a rivalry that rings eternal beyond the Roman thing, which will ring eternal. But I think Logan Paul is him. I think Logan Paul has the reach. I think he has the chops, both in ring and on the mic. I am a huge Logan Paul fan. I think that dude has taken to this sport more naturally than anyone I can think of, especially when you consider all the pressure and resources pumped into making this look good. I love Logan Paul, and that's not the cool thing to say. I think wrestling lifers
he's phenomenal. Come on, I'm a wrestling lifer. I think he's phenomenal.
They like to shit on this guy because he's an outsider. I think he helps. I think when the time is right, strap a rocket to him. He could be the guy.
For me, I love Tiffany Stratton. Oh,
Oh
I
yeah.
can't take my
Oh.
eyes off her on TV. She is amazing.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how, because WWE has been pretty plotting with this, and it seems like inevitably this will go the way that all tag teams go, and Bianca and Jade will break up. But I
Sure.
do like that they're tapping the storyline into what I'm sure is happening behind the scenes, which is Bianca helping Jade throughout this transition, because judging by the pops Jade is getting, she gives off star in ways that Tiffany Stratton might approach, but it's hard to find someone that just naturally walks into that room, walks out into that ring, and just conveys superstar in the way that she does. And I hope that she can get it together in ring and wrestle the WWE style, because she is, man, Brandon Phillips had it figured out, huh? He had it figured out.
Oh my God. Yeah, for people who don't know, Jade Cargill is married to former Reds second baseman Brandon Phillips. Mike, excellent job. Let everybody know anything you got coming up. Meadowlark Media, LeBatard Show. Go ahead.
Meadowlark Media, LeBatard Show going ahead right now. Those things are, we hope to get Zaz in the mix a little bit more. And I'm working on a lot of cool stuff that I can't say just yet. But if you're interested in a little bit more insight into what's going on in my life, I am behind a paywall on X. Subscribe for less than a cup of coffee. Get all the great University of Miami insight that has essentially been blackballed from the main feed, and some occasional winners, some losers too. But all my thoughts on professional wrestling I put behind that paywall.
Yes.
Music thoughts, everything like that. Less than a cup of coffee, $2.99. You won't regret it, I promise.
Good job, Mike. Thank you, man.
Thank you for having me.